Today I want to talk about hearing and hearing in such a way that you live a good life. First, some conversations about good and good life. If you really step back and make a binary decision about living a good life, it is really rooted in making good decisions or making bad decisions. It's binary. It's if you make good decisions, you have the best chance of living a good life. If you make bad decisions, you have less favorable options or less favorable probabilities working against you. This is it. That's it. Because there are other things that you can't control: the economy, violence in your environment, war, pandemics, epidemics. There are things that sort of happen in the environment that impact us, but the only thing you control is, are you making good decisions or are you making bad decisions? Look at dating, for example. Many people will tell you right now that the dating market is trash, that it is really hard to find someone these days who is mature, mentally, physically, financially fit, who is also ready to be in a serious relationship, marriage. That's environmental. Your best shot, though, of finding a good partner, a spouse, is to make good decisions. That doesn't change this fundamental binary. And so, from God's standpoint, looking at you, looking at the individual, the person he's come into your life, he's offering to come into your life, that is the offer. You make bad decisions today. Maybe they're not all bad. Maybe they have nuance of good, mixture. That in itself is not good enough, right? So half good equals bad in a situation where a binary exists. It's sort of like you didn't fully lie, but you lied enough for it to be perjury, off to jail you go. That sort of thing, right? So it's important for it to be all good, for your chances to be the highest they can be for a good life. If you marry well, you have a good chance of living well, you have a good chance of having healthy and happy children, you have a good chance of building well financially. That's just in that area, right? It's true in your career as well, making good decisions. Good decisions in your academics, doing your homework, good decisions in choosing the right place to go, party school versus not party school. Strong academics will lead to going to the right school that has also strong career placement. So good decisions is the foundation, best odds, of a good life. And God is saying to the individual, that's where I want to play. And so he has the option to focus on behavior modification, but he chooses instead to focus on a new nature. So in the scriptures, it says, a new heart I will give to you. I say all of that because I want to talk about hearing. And in God's economy, the way hearing works is now the bedrock of decisions. If you have poor hearing skills, your decisioning will follow. For example, someone is asking me for counsel and they're trying to get their career off the ground, and I'm listening to the way they hear, and all they're hearing is six figures. That's all they hear. And it means that when they see five figures, they equate that to failure because it's six figures now. And so they're not looking or trained by what they've been hearing to look for the right markers of a good career first step. How you hear affects so much of your decisioning. We say what you hear affects so much of your decisioning, but it's what you hear because of how it affects how you hear. So someone will say, if you watch a lot of scandalous stuff on TV, you watch a lot of scandalous reality TV, movies, things like that, it's going to affect how you look at women. We're in the same domain, right? So what is affecting how? How is so critical because when someone comes to say they want to be in your life, they want to have a relationship with you, and you've been trained to only look at the external by what you've been focusing on, the primary investments of your time and attention, you're going to likely pick someone whose physical attributes are front of mind to you as opposed to their emotional and mental attributes. And oftentimes that results in trouble downstream. So it's important to God to say through Jesus, take heed how you hear. And that's where I'm coming at you today. How do you hear? Now, it would not be good enough to just leave it there. I have some sort of demarcations that I have thought through about how people hear in the world today, and I want to talk through some of them. The first is what I call antagonistic hearing. Antagonistic hearing is the hearing of the opposition, the hearing of the opposer, the hearing of the person who actually isn't hearing. The antagonistic way of hearing is you're not listening to learn, you're listening to counter, you're listening to oppose. And right away you think, well, that is just base wrong. But sometimes actually that is the right way to listen. It's just as a way of growing and learning. You're not going to grow or learn anything in those environments. There are people who, when they start speaking today, I am not listening to learn from them. I am aware of who they are and where they come from in the thing that they are speaking. And frankly, I know that they are wrong. And I'm listening in order to respond not to them, but to the people around me who are potentially swayed by what they're saying. I'm responding for them, not to this person. I'm responding to this person, but for their benefit. So I'm in a debate with that person. We're in an antagonistic engagement experience, but the prize, as it were, is the audience. But antagonistic listening as a way of relationship building is not relationship building. It will not build relationships, and it will not foster closeness, nearness, or any kind of intimacy between you and the person that you are engaged with in any kind of interaction. So hearing in an antagonistic way is a particular kind of hearing that exists. This is the first one I wanted to bring up. The second one is what I call sycophantic hearing. And sycophantic hearing is hearing without any sort of critical analysis of what is being heard. You just buy everything the person is selling. So sycophantic hearing is hearing in the kinds of environments that we've talked, where we say this person is in a cult. We'll say like, oh, this person they just agree with everything this person says, right? This person has brainwashed them, things like that. So sycophantic hearing is hearing and accepting everything that is heard without any sort of critical analysis. Then there is what I think I would call empathetic hearing. Empathetic hearing is suspending my sort of critical lens for the benefit of someone else's experience. And so if I'm a cop and you're a cop, and you as a cop, you did something that is problematic, when you explain to me why you did that, I'm going to use empathetic hearing to sort of suspend some of the this is some black and white decisions that I should make based on what you did. I'll suspend that and say, hey, you had a reason, you have cause, because I'm putting myself in your shoes. I'm being empathetic. I'm saying, if it were me, would I do any different? Well, the answer is, if it were you, should you do any different? And if the answer is yes, then he's still wrong, right? And it's not just those who wear the blue that do this. It's also those who, steal and gang bang and do things like that. When they listen to each other about, there was no father in my life and there was no this and there was no that. It's like you're saying, does that justify or excuse? The empathetic hearing of people in the same in-group prevents them from being critical of the people that they're listening to in their defense of themselves, and say, yes, you've given your defense, but you're still wrong, right? There is, finally, what I call critical hearing. And I don't mean critical as antagonistic, I mean critical as examining. And we talk about critical thinking, now I'm talking about critical hearing. And critical hearing is saying, hey, I'll slow down, I'll analyze, I'll steelman your argument, I'll say, this is what you're saying, right? This is what you mean. And then you say, yes, this is what I'm saying, this is what I mean. This sort of critical hearing is really the best way to build relationships. It's the right way to foster intimacy, because it's not face value what you said is true. It's not face value what you said is false. It's let's wrestle together in the spirit of understanding. I want to understand you. So I'm not going to suspend black and white. I'm going to allow that I will get to a conclusion that I'll get to, but I'll get there honestly. Now, having said all of these kinds of hearings, you would think, all right, obviously, Anthony, critical hearing is what you're going to advocate, and it's not. All right, stay with me. What I have found is there is no philosophy, ideology, concept, even religion that can give any human being the tools to successfully navigate life. What I found is God's solution of giving a person is the only way to successfully navigate the nuances and complexities of life. Because every thought ideology, thought process, conception of life has places and circumstances, sort of like environmental conditions within which it fails. So if you're a pacifist, you have a really good sort of body of work that guides your way of living and your interaction with the world, but there are conditions and circumstances under which it fails. You are actually supporting evil. You must not be a pacifist. You must actually choose physical violence. And if you don't, you have sentenced your children, your grandchildren to oppression in the name of pacifism. So it doesn't matter if you choose any Marxism, capitalism. All of these bodies of thinking have their exception clauses that you're supposed to know when to engage. And we need, as far as God is concerned, a person to tell us when that is. And so that person must be a perfect person. That person is not a stoic. That person is not a pacifist. That person is not a religious, insert your religion here. That person is a perfect person. And so there'll be times when this perfect person and you are looking at something, and this perfect person will say, choose a stoic approach. Or they'll say, choose a pacifist approach. Or they'll say, choose a capitalistic approach. Or they'll say, choose a Marxist. I know you hate that approach. Where we're not trying to turn the post office into a profit-making entity. We recognize that the post office is a service. We will not criticize the post office for not making money. It's not supposed to make money, right? So there are ways in which a perfect person being in relationship with you protects you from excesses, protects you from making the wrong decision. And like we said at the beginning of this video, a good decision in every encounter with choice is the foundation for having the best possible odds for a good life. And so in this sense, Christianity is not religious. As far as God is concerned, he is not offering religion. He's offering the Holy Spirit. Now, Jesus is a precursor to the Holy Spirit, so we understand what the Holy Spirit sounds and looks like, what the Holy sounds and operates like, rather. So when I say looks like, I'm talking about the way in which Jesus operates is the way in which the Holy Spirit operates. So we have a template or a pattern, but the point is you have a person, the person of the Holy Spirit, in you, with you. And so the right kind of hearing actually becomes sycophantic hearing to the Holy Spirit, or sycophantic hearing to God. And therefore, you will have the right kind of hearing to everything and everyone else. Critical listening and hearing with those with whom you're building bonds and relationship with, empathetic listening or hearing in the right context, antagonistic listening in the right context. So the answer to what is the right one is sycophantic to God, or sycophantic to the Holy Spirit. This actually colors the way in which you read the scriptures, because if you read the scriptures without a guide, the person of the Holy Spirit, or the people that God has sent, you can come off with the wrong conclusions. I've seen people say things like, I need to be completely empty, I need to be completely blank so that God can have his way. And I'm like, God is not actually asking you to be empty. He's asking you to have the right things in you, right? He wants something to work with. And that is why in Romans 12, verse 2, it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's not about it being empty, it's about being renewed. It's what's in there. All of this to say, today, as you look forward into the future of your life, you're thinking, what should I do to live a good life? My answer to that is take heed how you hear. Because with the measure you hear, that will be the measure of your living, how well you live. Because it's the foundation of your decisions, by being the foundation of your desires. I've said a lot. I could talk about this sort of thing for a long time. If you want to hear more like these, please go ahead, follow, like, subscribe, all of the things, and I will catch you at the next one. Go and win.